And Iran is no match to the US might. There is no doubt about it. We have only seen death and destruction and instability and a growth of more terrorist outfits and terror groups. Iran is also a civilizational country, thinks also strategically, and we will not know exactly how things eventually pan out because this is an uncertain dimension that and the waters that they are chartering into. The results we have not seen. We have seen in past 2 years they have not been able to completely eliminate Hamas, which is a non-state actor. And when President Trump also himself claimed after Netanyahu that we control the skies of Iran, President Trump has been saying that he wanted a nuclear deal in which the Iranians neither had a chance of a nuclear bomb enrichment beyond a level. Iraqis have also said more countries are condemning it, almost all Arab countries. There is definitely an intra-regional competition among them. President Putin had spoken to President Trump and he offered that if necessary he can mediate. How it can be mediation can take place? Mediation can take place by both US and Russia working together. It is not only the power availability, it is also the determination. You know, Russia is already stuck in its own war with Ukraine and Europe. Pakistan and Iran, I mean, this has been long back established that they had some kind of a nuclear connect that's possible. Pakistan is trying to take an Islamic advantage. This is something that the world has been fearing for a long time. Whatever we were seeing a greater normalization with Israel will obviously come to a halt, and acceptance of it will become once again a major problem.
Hello everyone, I'm Arti Bali from TFI. As tensions between Israel and Iran escalate dramatically with targeted airstrikes, threats of regime change, and growing global unease, the role of major powers, particularly the United States, is coming under sharp focus. In this rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape, what lies ahead for West Asia, and how might the Israeli Iran confrontation reshape US Israel and broader global alignments? We have with us Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, a seasoned diplomat and former Indian envoy to several key missions, including the US, Russia, and several countries in the Middle East. Sir, what factors may have influenced Donald Trump's decision to reject Prime Minister Netanyahu's reported plan to target Iran's supreme leader? And what might this suggest about the evolving dynamics of US Israel relations amid the ongoing conflict?
Thank you, Arti for having me on your podcast. The fact remains is that the basic fulcrum of US foreign policy in the Middle East is security and stability of Israel. So that is the bottom line. So even though President Trump is not very happy with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has not conceded on the Gaza, which President Trump wanted from the very beginning, then he was also not very keen that this war escalates with Iran in the first place. But when it comes to the brass tacks, USA will support, and that's what is the calculation of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, Netanyahu has determined himself that Iran was on the verge of making nuclear weapons. And that is the threat which would make it more existential for Israel, according to Mr. Netanyahu. There are many other reasons why Netanyahu has taken this step. Essentially, it is, most observers feel, is to drag United States back into the region in a way where they will be involved in this war, which will be a war of attrition and a long war. It is not going to be easy. But the United States has been forced, as you know, President Trump walked out of the G7 summit, left early, and went to Washington and tried to have some kind of a forward plan. So he threatened Khamenei, but at the moment he said that Khamenei should be left alone. According to them, it is possible for the Iranian leader to be taken out by the Israeli intelligence, as can be seen in the past, because the major military and nuclear leadership has been eliminated by Israeli agencies, and which is really a very big achievement for them. It does cause problem, but then it is not a non-state actor. Iran has a chain of command, and I think that's why they have been able to replace. And they have also have retaliated and hurt Israel in several ways. So for a long time, without the US assistance, it will be difficult for Israel to carry on these strikes. And at the same time, I think that President Trump has already moved his naval and aerial assets in the region. They already have very large number of bases in the US, which have helped so far containing the Iranian attacks. And that's what the Iranian leadership has been saying, that they will take out those bases, they will attack those bases in the region. That means in the vicinity, in the Middle East. And that's why the whole place will burn in that sense.
So they have US have 25 bases in the Middle East surrounding the Iran. So how do you see that US Nimitz aircraft has been rerouted to Middle East? So how do you see that development? Because now there
Well,
will
I
be
think
two
that, yeah, no,
nuclear
no, no.
ships.
There are two aircraft carriers which are on the way already, and naturally the firepower and including Israel's own and the complicity of some of the countries in the region would definitely put an advantage the Israeli and the U.S. Operations. And Iran is no match to the U.S. might. There is no doubt about it. But then there are other factors also that needs to be taken into account because Iran can potentially close Hormuz Strait, and in collaboration with the Houthis, they can even close the Bab el Mandab, which will mean that the whole trade will be impacted very badly. Oil prices have already gone up significantly, and the value supply chain will be hampered. So that's one of the fallouts that are going to happen. Apart from that, we have seen the wherever the United States has intervened, be it in Libya, be it in Iraq, we have only seen death and destruction and instability and a growth of more terrorist outfits and terror groups. And so this will time it will not be very different also if they do intervene militarily. Of course, regime change remains an agenda. They are hoping that by changing the regime there, maybe somebody else will come who is far more amenable to both Israel and the United States compared to the aging Ayatollah Khamenei. But that is wishful thinking at the moment. Iran is also a civilizational country, thinks also strategically, and we will not know exactly how things eventually pan out because this is an uncertain dimension that and the waters that they are chartering into.
So, because I think it's very difficult this time to change the regime and as well as the people, because US President Donald Trump has also told Netanyahu that this is not the time to change. So, what do you think of all these plans of Netanyahu of changing the regime and also telling Iranian people that this is you can change the regime. This is the opportunity. So, how do you feel that?
Well, I think that the regime change agenda is something that has been a favorite pastime of the United States, and we have seen it in every country that they've been there since the Arab Spring and all. So that is not a big problem. The problem is the day after. What happens after that? So, no doubt, it is possible that the Israeli Mossad and others may be able to take out Khamenei, but then he's already been placed in some very secret place, which the Americans claim that they know where he is. But suppose, let's say, hypothetically, if that happens tomorrow, does that mean that the Iranian people will suddenly embrace Netanyahu? No, that's not going to happen. But there will be more disorder in the place. Of course, not that everybody loves Khamenei. Khamenei, 36 years, has run the country in a highly conservative manner. A large number of people are moderate Iranians. They think differently. They are not very happy. The women were not very happy. But at the same time, when you bomb a country out of place and then you cause difficulties at the civilian level, it has been seen in the past that the people become far more patriotic at the time. And so, therefore,
Yes.
the revenge becomes much more, accentuated.
So, has Israel's Operation Rising Lion marked a permanent shift in its regional strategy from deterrence to regime change? And as far as just you said, that the patriotism rises at this time when when the people of Iran are seeing that they are being attacked, even the civilians are being attacked, the hospitals are being attacked. So, how do you see that?
Well, I think as far as Israeli policy is concerned, it's driven by two factors, in my view. One is totally security, its own security related oriented. We may discuss that, and we may say that debate it out that whether it's the right strategy or not. Secondly, they seem to believe that as far as the external relations are concerned, the power flows out of the barrel of the gun. And so, whether in every place they have only tried to use more force, which they have an excellent edge compared to anybody else in the region. And so, but that the results we have not seen. We have seen in past 2 years they have not been able to completely eliminate Hamas, which is a non-state actor. Even though Hezbollah leadership they decapitated, but Hezbollah is very much alive. Till now, Houthis are still operating and holding the maritime domain. I mean, so I think that these strategies can give temporary results and reprieve, but they are not going to buy you a lasting peace. And that is something I think that the all the leaderships in the region need to understand. And I'm here in Abu Dhabi at the moment, and I tell you that there is a deep concern in the region about these escalations that are taking place because that might engulf the whole region in the end.
So, how sustainable is Israel's solo campaign against Iran's nuclear infrastructure without full US military backing?
There is, I mean, I think there are arguments about it whether there was a not by the U.S. administration or not. But fact remains is that Israel does factor the U.S. support in it. And when President Trump also himself claimed after Netanyahu that we control the skies of Iran. Now that means that they were very much complicit in the whole the bargain. At the same time, President Trump has been saying that he wanted a nuclear deal in which the Iranians neither had a chance of a nuclear bomb enrichment beyond a level or no enrichment at all. And including they wanted to remove their missile capabilities and things like that, which were non negotiable. But it was seemed as if the sixth round of talks that was supposed to happen last Sunday were about to succeed into some kind of an agreement, which Netanyahu obviously did not like it because any agreement means it creates a bigger threat for Israel. That's how they perceive it. And so, therefore, the time was opportune. Moreover, President Trump's 60 days limit was also over. So, 61st day, that's when Israeli leadership decided to take out the nuclear facilities and decapitate the military leadership of Israel, of Iran.
So, so what do you think? What role are the Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, militias, likely to play in the in this escalation, as well as and how this conflict is going to get bigger?
Well, the thing is that Netanyahu has, in the past 2 years, definitely made a big dent into these proxies, especially Hamas and Hezbollah. But they are still not completely down and out. They're very much there in the ring, so they can always distract Israeli forces into fighting with them in a different way. And Houthis will continue from the maritime dimension, and they have also said it. Iraqis have also said more countries are condemning it. Almost all Arab countries have condemned these aggression against the sovereignty of Iran. Of course, it's not that they love Iran. No, there is definitely an intra-regional competition among them. But at the same time, they understand that if the war breaks out and it goes beyond a certain level, I mean, the only thing is that if somehow Iran decapitulates, if that happens, then obviously you cannot see much destruction in the region or involvement of other countries. But before going out, if they decide that we are going to play the fireball, then it is going to be a very big problem.
So, is Netanyahu's appeal to the Iranian public for uprising gaining any traction as far as you think?
Well, I don't think this is the right time, but of course, if Ayatollah Khomeini is no longer there, or almost all the mullah leadership is taken out, then definitely there are choices because people are also 36 years. They have seen a very different kind of living under sanctions, difficulties, problems, and being dissociated from rest of the world. So obviously they might look for a change, but what kind of a change will that be? Because I don't have a great hope for the simple reason that whatever happens, we have seen Iraq has not stabilized as yet. Libya has not stabilized, and you are seeing more and more problem with regard to terror groups. So, if that is going to be the end result, you don't know how it is going to play out eventually.
So, what do you think? the US or Israel should do to stabilize, or they want a destabilized Middle East so that they can influence or dominate much better in the region? Because Syria, they have changed the regime, and that is still in the transition period, and there are also violence inside the country. And Iraq, we have seen it. Libya, we have seen it. And now this Iran. And the Taliban in Afghanistan, after 20 years, they are back again in the country. So what do
That is
you
also
think?
that is also the gift of United States. So can you
Yeah.
expect anything better this time? I doubt very much. Under Trump, I had also thought as an observer that he does not like wars, and at least the conventional wars. He likes trade wars. That's a different thing. But if he gets really involved in this, to the extent that the American forces start bombing directly in this war, then obviously, I mean, he'll have his own problems to deal with, and what he's trying to project himself to be peacemaker, negotiator, and all that will go take a hit. Another thing that can happen is, as the Iranians are also talking to the Europeans and everybody else, Europeans are not on board with the regime change also at the same time. So, if at all some kind of a nuclear deal is achieved now at the last stage, that is what can prevent the further mayhem in this. And I don't expect Israel to back down.
And there are reports that Russia has proposed that they can store the nukes of Iran to bring peace in this area, that is Israel, Iran and Israel conflict.
No, I mean, Russia has, President Putin had spoken to President Trump, and he offered that if necessary, he can mediate. How it can be mediation can take place. The mediation can take place by both US and Russia working together. Russia prevails upon Iran. Of course, Russia cannot prevail upon Israel, even though they have reasonably good relations with Israel, but they have been condemning this war. At the same time, President Trump, if he sees good reason and he tells Netanyahu that enough is enough now, let's stop and we have a nuclear deal, then I think it can stop. But if we are thinking that, that Iran is not going to pursue its nuclear ambition, then I think we are living in a fool's paradise.
And how are the rising powers like again Russia and including China responding to the Israel Iran confrontation, and can they use it to their advantage?
Well, Iran is their friend and partner, and this is both for China and both for Russia. So it is seen from their statements. They have condemned the Israeli aggression. They have even provided some support, apparently, whether intelligence or equipment that is also there in the report. I'm not sure exactly how much and what, but the situation is that it is a disproportionate power between the United States and Israel on the one hand and the others on the other. And plus, it is not only the power availability; it is also the determination. Russia is already stuck in its own war with Ukraine and Europe, and so it has its own hands full. China is far too smart to get fully embroiled in this war, so you're not looking at that. But what happens if the situation really goes out of hand and if the region unfortunately becomes a playground, then you might see all the smaller wars around getting combined into it, and we are looking for a much bigger Armageddon type of a thing.
Yeah, because already two wars are going on, and the Trump who came with a promise assurance that I'll end the two wars, he has started the third one. What do you
Well,
think?
I hope that it is still his pressure tactic for Iran to yield. And chances are that there could be a possibility. I mean, as a diplomat, I only think of hope of no war. But as the things play out, none of them are backing out. Of course, there are reports that Iran is shifting its missile to a more safer location because a lot of launching pads have been destroyed by Israel. But they are also hurting Israel quite badly. In fact, whatever reports one has seen, even though there is a complete blackout on news from Israel. But at the same time, it's not that in war only one side wins or the other side loses. They both lose in the bargain.
And what do you think about the Iranian reports that they have said, the military has said that Pakistan will use their nukes against Israel if Israel happens to use against us? So, what do you think,
You
sir?
see, Pakistan and Iran, this has been long back established that they had some kind of a nuclear connect that's possible. Pakistan is trying to take an Islamic advantage in this whole bargain. Whether it will do it or not, I don't know. Today, General Asim Munir apparently is meeting President Trump over lunch or something. Now, so Pakistan is trying to play its game, try to stay relevant as it always does with the superpowers while making these kind of noises. That they will use a nuclear bomb. It's okay. It is good to keep the Islamic world in humor about this, but I doubt very much that the Pakistanis have the capacity or will be able to do so in that event.
How might this confrontation influence global energy markets, especially if oil exports from the Gulf are disrupted?
Well, it's already done. As you know, that they are already oil prices are high, and if the two choke points are also restricted, then the Gulf oil will be difficult to flow, and that will cause shortages. That means the prices will shoot further, and that will be a very big problem. We have seen it in the past, and it can happen even now. Let's hope we don't reach at that point, and let's hope that in a day or two there is some kind of a solution that is found out whereby at least some negotiations begin.
As Israel said that he will continue this rising law in operation for 14 days. And if it continues for 14 days and Iran will retaliate for another these days, so how do you see this, the entire conflict and its wider implications?
Well, this is something that the world has been fearing for a long time. A fight between Iran and Israel, direct war. There have been clandestine conflicts and wars and decimation and killing of high level functionaries that has been going on from both sides for a long time through proxies that Iran has been also trying to contain Israel. But this is the first time that Israel has decided to go all out open and do it. In the beginning, it did not seem as if Americans were on board. At least they tried to publicly say that they were not involved in that for various reasons. They have their own calculations. But now, eventually, if that goes on for 14 days, USA will have to take a call. And that's why I think that if in next 2 3 days time we should see some kind of a calming down impact by the Americans on the situation. Otherwise, there will be, global supply chains will be disrupted. You will see greater action by various regional countries and others getting into it. They are all worried because they don't want this war to expand. Plus, this is also a lesson for them. They think that if you don't agree with either of them, either USA or Israel, that means you will have a regime change on the cards for themselves. So that's something, whatever we were seeing a greater normalization with Israel will obviously come to a halt, and acceptance of it will become once again a major problem.
And what do you think about Russia's again prompting through trilateral dialogue between China, India, and Russia? How do you view that?
Well, this has been going on for a very long time. And Mr. Primakov in the 2000 and all the 1990s, I think he launched it that there would be a good idea to have the three powers work together. Eurasian, he called as it is. So that China and so we have RIC as a mechanism, and this mechanism continues. And India is a part of several groupings, including BRIC, Squad, everything. So we do it as per our own interest, and Russians, of course, like to have because it was their initiative.
Thank you, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, for sharing your nuanced perspective on the Israeli Iran conflict and the evolving crisis and its potential implications for the world.